Welcome everybody, this is Terry Miller with the Des Moines, Iowa User Group. Yesterday I did a presentation to our team on moving from Process Builder to Lightning Flow. And it's really kind of a side-by-side comparison for those of you who are brand new to Flow that helps you see the similarities between those two automation tools. I do want to tell you that I had a glitch in the early part of this video where I did some screen resizing to make it easier to read, and it kind of made the recording go a little bit crazy. We do get that cleared up, so either skip forward to it's roughly 9 minutes into the video, or you can suffer through it a little bit. But I didn't edit it out because at the beginning is mostly a little game that I like to do with this particular lesson, and it's kind of fun, so I left it in there. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that we are putting together and releasing as early as I think tomorrow. I've got it scheduled to release the first of an 8-part series that really gets into the meat of some of those core things that we would do in Process Builder, how we would replicate that in Lightning Flow. So watch for those. Those are going to come out weekly for the next 6 weeks. I'm going to do 2 videos released this week, 2 videos next week, and then there'll be one each week after that. So you'll see all of those by the time the year is over. I hope they help you make that transition from Process Builder to Lightning Flow. Let's get into today's lessons. All right, so welcome everybody. My name is Terry. I think most of you know me by now. We are recording the session, so hopefully that's okay. And if not, please feel free to drop off of the call. We will post this up on YouTube once it probably is not going to happen today, but hopefully tomorrow. So you could watch there if you prefer not to be recorded. But what I'd like you to do is, if you have a sheet of paper, I want you to take that piece of paper and I want you to draw a house. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Let me share my screen. I've got a timer up here that we will use if I can find the right screen. And so take your sheet of paper. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I want you to draw a house for me on that piece of paper. So go ahead and start drawing a house. For those of you who just joined, we are asking that you grab a piece of paper and draw a house on your sheet of paper. And while you're doing that, I'm going to adjust my screen size so it's a little bigger for you. Hopefully, there we go. That might be too big. We'll go with this. Okay, hopefully that'll work. I do want to stop you though for just a second. I'm going to stop the clock here too, because I kind of changed my mind, and instead of drawing a house, I'd really like, well, in fact, I kind of need you to change that from a house to a boat. So if you don't turn your paper over, just modify what you already have and change your house to a boat. And I'm going to give you some more time here. You've got another minute yet to make that change for me. And I gotta stop one more time. I'm really sorry. I know that I asked you originally to draw a house, and then I needed it to be a boat, but I kind of need it to have the ability to work on land. So if you could make in the last couple of seconds, just modify it a little bit more if you can, so that we can have your drawing work on land. All right, we're getting close here. 5 seconds left. Hopefully, you've got a nice looking houseboat car. All right, guys. So, how many of you would like to share what you did? If you could just maybe throw it up on the camera, if you could turn your camera on, if you've got one, I'd love to see what you drew, how it turned out. Very nice. Very good for those of you. Oh, look at that. Very nice. Anybody else have their drawing that they want to share? Awesome. Awesome. Very, very good. Very good. Well, sometimes it feels like the exercise that we just did is kind of what happens with Salesforce once in a while. And it wasn't that long ago we were building all of our automations using workflow rules. And how many of you, if you just throw your hand in the air on virtually, how many of you were using workflow rules when way back? You've been around Salesforce long enough, you've done workflow rules. Yeah, good. Very good, very good. Thumbs up, I see those, good. And then a few years ago, they introduced Process Builder. And we were then asked to transition to Process Builder. It's so much better. It's got so many more capabilities than what Workflow Rules did. And I'm hoping all of us jumped onto that bandwagon, and we're all familiar with doing things in Process Builder. So give me a thumbs up or a raise your hand if you're using Process Builder. Yeah, good. Quite a few of you are using Process Builder. Good. And now, in the latest news is they are wanting us to start to transition over to Flow. And Flow is what we're going to look at today in this session. We've got a process builder example that we have in our org. We're going to look at that, and we're going to then build a portion of it in Flow so that you can start to see just how similar Process Builder and Flow can be. And so that's where we are going to go today. So let me share my screen here. And one of the things that Salesforce has come out publicly, at least, and said is that the challenges that we have with Process Builder really are difficult for them to address. Things like debugging Process Builder, it's really, really difficult. And if you've done Process Builder at all, you've probably seen the error messages that come, and they're really cryptic, and you have to kind of know a different language almost in order to interpret them. And so there's nothing they can do about that, from what I understand from the project managers. And so they are not going to spend a whole lot more time, if any, developing out Process Builder, and they're encouraging and spending most of their effort on Flow. And Flow is getting easier and easier, and I know that people are often intimidated by Flow. And what I'm wanting to do, and part of why we've been doing these series throughout the summer, or throughout this year, is to try to help you become more comfortable inside of Flow. Today's presentation is very, very specifically looking at how Process Builder and Flow are common, where there are things that are similar, that I think is going to help you feel even more comfortable starting to use Flow. And I think it's a lower end. What we're going to be looking at today, record trigger flows, and I really do believe that is your simplest entry point into learning Flow. So without much more going on there. Let's go ahead and jump in. And we've got on this account record, we've got a couple processes in play. And one of those is around this CSTAT rating of neutral, that if I edit this CSTAT rating and I change it to unsatisfied, it will modify the customer priority to high. Another one that I have is down here with our billing address, that if I change this billing address, I've got a checkbox here that will update my 2 contacts that are also on this account. So I'm just going to change this to Main Street. Okay, so we've got 2 automations that are happening. This is going to run using Process Builder today. And it's pretty common stuff, things that you probably already do in Process Builder. And you can see that they unsatisfied did change this to a high priority. And I'm crossing my fingers that the address updated, and you can see there that the mailing address also updated from Test to Main Street.
Hey, Terry.
Yes.
I don't know if it's just me, but I can't really see the left side of your screen. It's all like, yeah.
Is that better?
Did
I go the wrong way?
Terry, I think you need to stop sharing and resharing. Like, I actually just chatted about that because it's like it had a ghost windows almost on the left side of the screen.
It probably got confused when I resized it, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you. Is that better?
That's
much
great.
better, thank you.
Awesome, super, thank you for that. And let me find the chat window as well and get that open just in case, so I can see that as we move through here. Thank you for doing that. Thanks also, just any kind of questions, interactions that you have throughout this, feel free to interrupt, unmute, and ask questions as we go. So as you can see, we've got those 2 automations. They are running in Process Builder. And if I jump over to Process Builder, we've got a CSTAT rating decision here that simply says if that rating equals unsatisfied, then we want to run the action of updating the customer priority to high. Okay, so that's one that we're going to build. The other one that we're going to build out today is this update address. And here, if the update all contact address, that's the checkbox, is set to true, then we are going to update all of the related contacts. And we're going to uncheck the box so that we don't run it again. So we're going to uncheck that, update contacts addresses. Okay. Raise your hand if you're comfortable with what we are doing or how this works inside of Process Builder. Give me just some quick feedback. Okay, good. Very, very good. All right, so I'm going to deactivate this Process Builder just so that it doesn't get in our way later. And we're going to get the Zoom meeting controls out of the way so I can see my tabs. And we're going to jump over to Flow. And so very, very similar to the way that you would create a Process Builder, there's a new button. So you'd create a new process, you'd click new. We're going to do the same thing with Flow. We're going to click that new button to initiate a flow. And it's going to start by asking you what type of flow do you want to create. In this case, we're going to choose a record trigger flow, and that's what we're going to focus on for this whole training is record trigger flows. Anytime you're thinking Process Builder, think record trigger flows instead. So your screen, if you click on that new flow, might look slightly different than this. You may have more items on it. You may have fewer. But you will see record trigger flow in that. So go ahead and select that next time you need to build a Process Builder. Now, the second question you're going to get after you've made that selection is, do you want to use freeform or auto layout? Auto layout is in beta, but I'm recommending that you use auto layout as you're learning. If you are already comfortable inside of Flow, there's nothing wrong with using a freeform, but auto layout's going to be a much easier place for you to go if you're trying to learn how to do this. It's almost like it guides you a little bit better. So we're going to choose auto layout, and as soon as I clicked on that, it takes me into the canvas. And you can see that it's kind of a big wide open space where it can feel a little bit intimidating, but I'm going to show you how common or how similar things are here. So in Process Builder, one of the very first things that we do is we choose the object that we're going to reference. And in this case, it's the account. And we've set this up so that when a record is edited or updated, that's when this Process Builder kicks in. If I jump over to our flow, I choose my object here. So I click into that. I can just click into the field and it will show me all of my objects, or I can start typing and it will filter that list down. So we're going to choose account. And this is something that's a little bit different here than what you have in Process Builder. We can have a condition that only runs this flow when that condition is true. It's almost kind of like the decision element in Process Builder. But for now, I want us to simply just select none. We're going to run this flow every time the account is changed, or a record on the account is changed. So it works just like it would in with Process Builder. This middle tier of our start element is where we can further define if we want to run this when the record's created, updated, or created and updated. And then we also have delete, which is kind of cool. In our use case, it's going to be a created or updated. Now we come down to this the lower half of the screen, and this is something that might be a little bit new. And I know for those of you in the Des Moines area you've seen me show you this particular chart before. And this is the order of execution, and this helps us determine whether or not we want to run our flow before the record is saved or after the record is saved. And some of you might be thinking, well, what the heck's the difference between before and after? Well, the difference is when you press that save button, all of these items that you see on the screen actually run during that save action. We would call it a transaction. And the record trigger flow before is the second item that's on the left-hand side of this diagram. So it runs very, very early in the order of execution. In fact, it runs before the record is ever saved to the database, which is awesome. So the reason that's cool is because I can manipulate that record kind of almost like in real time, or you can kind of think of it like real time. I don't have to resave the record. It's still sitting in memory, and I can just make manipulations to it in memory. So it's significantly faster than what would happen with Process Builder. Process Builder lives over here after the record's been saved, and it's kind of halfway through all of the actions that happen. And then the record trigger after flow runs from the second to the last before the record is finally committed. So when we have to make this decision of before or after trigger flows, it kind of is an important one to understand. The rule I'm going to give you is kind of a 95-ish type percent rule. There are exceptions, but if you are making changes to the record that triggered the flow, you're going to want to do that in the before the record is saved. And again, that's because we're dealing with the values that are still in memory, and we haven't written them to the database yet. So it's very, very fast. If you are updating a record that is different than the one that triggered the flow, then you're going to want to use an after record after the record is saved. Okay, so let me test you here real quick to see if you understand this one. In our Process Builder, our CSTAT rating, it updated the customer priority field on the account. which of should I do this in the before record trigger or in an after record trigger? If you're believing it should be the before, raise your hand. Okay, I've got one person listening. That's awesome. There we go. All right, good. Yep, before. If you think it should be in the after, how many would believe it should be after? Okay. All right, good. I saw no additional hands there. What about when we look at the update the address? Here we're updating contact records. Is that a before trigger? Okay, I see no hands. Is that an after trigger? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Very, very good. All right, so if we are going to replicate first this CSTAT one in our flow, we're going to choose that before, and you'll be able to see now we've got that start element fully set. What I like about the auto layout is that the elements that we get to work with are all kind of guided here in this little plus sign. So I can click on that little plus element, and it gives me the ability to choose what I want to add now to my flow. So in this case, we need to make a decision, and the decision is the equivalent of our little decision triangles over here. So if I looked at CSAT rating equals unsatisfied, that's what I'm going to build out here in flow. So let's give it a name, and I'm going to copy this name just to make it a little bit easier for me. That DEC just for me means it's a decision. And down here on the lower part of the screen is where I set that criteria. So what I want you to be familiar with is this global variable that Salesforce creates called $record. $record is your friend. You want to be very comfortable finding and working with $record. It is the record that triggered your flow. So in this case, it is that account, that Acme Inc. account record. And so I'm going to click into $record, and I will see all of my account fields listed here. I can scroll through that list to find what I'm looking for, or I could just simply start typing, and it will narrow my selection down. So there's the CSTAT rating equals, and I really like the fact that my pick list values are all here just like they are in Process Builder. So I'm going to simply select unsatisfied. Okay. Any questions on that criteria? Works very much like Process Builder does as far as building out your criteria. Now, one thing that is different with Flow has a lot more capability. In Process Builder, you had two options on your decisions. You had a false path that took you down to the next decision, or you had a true path that took you over to actions that you were able to do. Flow gives you the ability to have multiple paths that you can go down in these decision elements. And so because of that, we have to give all of our conditions, they call them outcomes, a label. So that's what this label is here. And I'm simply going to just call it unsatisfied. Okay. Think of that. If you're just putting one element in here, it's kind of like the true path. We're going over and we're going to do actions if this condition is true. The other piece that's in Process Builder that's kind of hidden underneath this advanced is the only execute this when the condition first becomes true. That's this little yes checkbox. In Flow, or in the decision element, it is the equivalent of the radio box that you see at the bottom of the screen. So it'll only run when this condition is first met. And then the default outcome, that it would be it for our scenario that we're building today. That's in essence the false path. So we're not going to do anything on the default outcome. Any questions on that decision? You can put them in the chat window, or you can just unmute and ask. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click done. And you'll notice that once I have that decision in place, I do get those two different paths. This is my default path. That takes me one direction, and then my unsatisfied takes me another direction. And I want to add the actions on the unsatisfied side. So in Process Builder, we were changing the priority to high on the unsatisfied. So I'm just simply going to click on Add an Element. And what's uniquely different in the before trigger than the after, and we're going to see after here in a moment, is that I don't have an update record here. And the reason for that is I don't need to update the record because I haven't saved it yet. So all I need to do is change the variable or change the field priority and set it to high. And I do that with what's called an assignment. So let's go ahead and assign priority. And so for my variable, again, I'm going to jump down here to the dollar record. That's the account record. And I'm looking for priority. Is that what I called it? Was it called customer priority? Yeah, it was. Okay. That kind of threw me there for a moment. Equals high. All right. So again, I'm unsatisfied. It comes down that path and sets priority to high, and then we are finished there. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? Does that look pretty straightforward? All right. Just checking my notes, make sure I got everything there, and I do. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. And we'll call it and because this is a before trigger, I'm going to make sure I add that term before in here so that I can distinguish the difference between an account before flow and an after flow. So, all right, so that's our flow. And just like Process Builder, you have to activate your flows as well. So I'm going to go ahead and activate this flow so that we'll have it ready to go. Now, in this Process Builder, you can see we've got a lot of different decisions there, and you can certainly build these all out. We're not going to do that today, but simply coming down here underneath the first decision, I can add another decision that would represent the other elements that are a part of that particular Process Builder. So I can take one account before record trigger flow, build out all of my decisions just like what it would be over here in Process Builder. So all of these with the evaluate next, I can do that all in that single flow. Okay. All right, so you mentioned that I would need to use the after flow to do the updating the addresses. So let's take a look at that one. So I'm going to again come back to flow, and I'm going to click new flow. We're using a record trigger flow and auto layout. We're going to come and choose our object, which is the account. And we're going to set our conditions to none. And let's edit what triggers it. This is going to be a record update or create or update. And we are going to leave it on the after record trigger. All right, so now let's make our decision. Our first decision here is the update address. So this is the one that we're replicating. And just for your memory, there's the update all contact address checkbox that's set to true. All right, so let's decision update address. $record and update all contact addresses equals true. We're going to do this only when it's true the first time around. And our label is, let's just call it update address. Now, you don't have to get rid of those spaces in here. That's it's just my naming convention that I typically use. So you can label it whatever you want. The API name will resolve itself perfectly fine. So anyway, we've got update addresses, and I'm going to change the default outcome on this one to don't update, just so you can see we can label those different. Now, if I have a scenario where I want to do more than a kind of a one outcome is one thing, and then the other path, if I have more than two paths, I can simply come up here and add additional outcomes, and that just gives me multiple paths that I can go down based off of whatever the criteria is that I'm evaluating. We are not going to do that today, but just know that that is there. You can also control the order in which those different outcomes run just by dragging and dropping each of them around the screen. So let me clean house here and get rid of these so that they don't get in our way. And we're ready to say done. So this is my update address, don't update side. And let's take a look at our elements now that we have available to us in the after trigger. The after gives us the ability to run actions. Actions could be the actions that you create on the object. So like it's if you go into button links and actions on the object manager, if you create an action there, those actions will be available here as well. There are also some default actions that are in here, things like send an email or post to chatter. We're going to do the post to chatter one here in a little bit. So there's a lot of things that you can do using an action. We do have the assignment, we have our decisions, our loops, and we can end the flow, finish it right here. We also have some things now that we can do with data, which is create records, update records, get additional records, and delete records. So we've got more capability in the after than we did in the before. And so that's another way Salesforce is kind of guiding you to which one of these flows make most sense for what I need to do. If after is updating something outside of the record that you're working on 95% of the time. So we're going to do an update record this time. And I'm going to label that update contact address. And how do I find the records to update? I can use the ID and all values that are stored in a collection. That's the harder approach. In this particular scenario, we're not going to deal with collections. We talked about collections a lot in some of the previous training stuff, so hopefully you're kind of familiar with that concept. But we're just going to use the specify conditions to identify the records right here within the update. So we're going to use that one. And then it's going to ask us what object do we want to update. And in this case, it's going to be our contact object. And so here's now my filter that I can use, or the condition that helps me find the right contact records. In this case, these are all my contact fields. So I'm going to want where the account ID equals my $record down here at the bottom, $record account ID, which is right here. Okay, does that make sense? Everybody still with me? Thumbs up if you are. Okay, good, good. Awesome. All right, so that's the condition. Now I need to define the fields that I need to update. So jumping back to Process Builder, if I look at the update contacts, these are the fields that I need to update. So let's find my right flow. Okay, so the field is mailing street, and it's going to be set to our dollar record billing street. All right, so mailing. Let's see, I don't have to have country, I don't think, here, do I? Oh, I do. Okay. Country equals dollar record country billing mailing post. You'll notice that as we go through these lists, if I've already got that field defined, it takes it out of our list. So it just keeps narrowing it down as we go. And for me, what I've been doing is just kind of going alphabetically through that list. It just makes it so that I kind of, it's just my way, I guess, of kind of double checking that I'm connecting all the dots here. So billing and then mailing street is my last one. Record street billing. Okay, everything look good? Any questions on that? You guys are very quiet today, so that's fantastic. Not fantastic, very quiet. It's fantastic. I must be answering all your questions. So, so all right, so we've got that one in there. Now, the other thing that happened in this, oh gosh, I must have hit a button I didn't intend to. Let's get back to Process Builder. In the update address, we had also this uncheck the update, or uncheck that checkbox that we had. Now, I can't uncheck that in the before because I need to know that the box was checked in the after. So this is one of those where it's a little bit of an exception. In the after flow now, I need to do a I need to change that original value, and I'm going to, I think I can do this in the assignment. Clarissa, tell me if you think I'm wrong. I think I can do it here. So my variable dollar record, find my, there it is, update all contact address equals, and we're going to just simply set it back to false. Assign up, update all. We'll go with that. That's good. Good enough for now. Okay. Pretty sure that's going to work. We'll try it out. And if it doesn't, then we'll just switch this from an assignment to an update record. I'm pretty sure that it's going to work here, though. All right, so let's save this one. And this is going to be called our account after, I forget what, flow training. I was trying to remember my name that I did with it before. All right, there we go, flow training. And let's activate that one. Okay, so Process Builder has been deactivated. Both of our new flows are active. And let's reset these fields back to neutral and priority to low. We'll save that. Okay, so we've got neutral. Main Street is still our address over here. So let's see what happens. Let's see if we got this right. It's always the fun part of doing this stuff live. And let's change Main Street to, we'll just go locus. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so there you go. You can see that unsatisfied did change the priority here to high, so that's good. We have locust. Oh, I forgot to hit that update. I think I forgot the update. Let's try that one again. So let's click update, save it, and let's hope, cross fingers, that we got there it is. You can see the addresses are now updated as well. Any questions? I see we've got a couple here in the meeting. Carlos, you asked, should your first one be the billing city? The order really doesn't matter there. It's and let me make sure I'm understanding your question as far as the update. If I edit that element. So on the contact record, it is the mailing address is what we update, and then on the account, it is the billing. Oh, I see what you're saying. I got the wrong one here. Got it. I think yes, you're right. This should have been. Thank you. $. Billing city. Yes, you were correct. Thank you. Let's see. So you have to leave. That's good. All right. Perfect. Any questions on that? Does that look pretty straightforward? Pretty easy to do? Okay. Thank you, Tanner. All right. Good. All right. So our process all works. So one of the other ones that I missed earlier is in our unsatisfied, we also had some additional items here as well, and we've got another 15 minutes. So let's update our flow to create a chatter post. So give me a thumbs up if you think the chatter post should be in the before or in the after trigger. Or throw it in chat, I guess. If it's the before, hands up. After? Okay, good. All right, good. Yes, it's the after because we're updating a different object. So let's jump over then to the after. So this is my after trigger flow. And now I need to have another decision in here. So I can add the decision up above or I can add it down below. Let's go ahead and kind of keep it in the same order it was in our process builder. So I'm going to do a decision here in my after that is basically the same as the one in the before. So this is going to be our CSTAT rating. Label will be satisfied. Sorry, unsatisfied. $record. CSTAT rating equals unsatisfied. I don't know why. I just don't really care for that do not or the default outcome label. I like to change it to something more meaningful. All right, so let's click on the plus for the unsatisfied path, and this time we're going to do an action. And in the action search box here, I'm just going to type in chatter, and you can see here that we have a post to chatter option for our action. So let me create a label for it. And what's cool is that everything kind of gets predefined down here for us. So I know exactly what I need to be able to put in place. And so the message is a required field. So I'm going to throw my message in there. Now, if I were doing, I'd probably do this differently than just tossing the full message right here in this box. I would, a better approach, but given time, I'm not going to go there. It would be to create a constant or a text template that you could define this message inside of that text template. But for now, we're just going to throw it in here. This syntax for the name is not going to be the same, and I'm going to correct that in just a second. But our target is going to be our dollar record ID. So contact ID. Oh, no, I'm sorry, account ID. Okay, so you can see how this is formatted slightly different for the merge field than what it is on Process Builder. So I'm going to change this manually to dollar record. Okay, so that's the account name there. If we would do this, probably the more better practice in a text template or in a constant, there are fields, there are pick lists that allow us to resolve that name, the merge field. So you don't have to guess your way if you're doing it correctly. So all right, so those are the two that are required. I'm simply going to say done, and I've got my action in there now. So now this is starting to look a little bit more like Process Builder, where we've got the multiple decisions, and we've got and actions that are associated with those decisions. That makes sense? We're good? You guys are so quiet today, my goodness. All right, now just like Process Builder, because this is a active flow, it's going to require us to do a save as. It's kind of the equivalent of clone. So think of it that way, and we're just going to create a new version. Okay, now that gives me the ability to activate this now. So for fun, let's test this out, and I'm going to play a little bit risky here because I don't know for sure if this is going to work exactly right, but let's try it. I don't even know. Okay, I do have chatter on the page, so that's good. All right, so let's give it a shot and see what happens. Unsatisfied, save. That went to high. Crossing my fingers, there it is. Acne rating was changed to unsatisfied just now. So there we go. Give them some extra love. Any questions on that process? Yay, thank you. Thanks for that clap. I appreciate it. A little encouragement. That's fantastic.
Can I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Didn't you have, and I know we didn't update the address, but can we test the address? Because isn't it supposed to uncheck that box for us?
Oh, you're right. It is. And it didn't, did it? So good.
I don't remember.
I think you're right. It should have. And that tells me then that using that assignment did not work. So let's go back to that and fix it. Thank you for that. So the assignment will work obviously in the before trigger. It did not work here in the after. So let's change that out. Let's just delete it. And let's add a update record. Update. All right, so here we're going to update dollar record. And we don't need to specify the field, but that's the record that we are going to update. And I'm going to specify conditions here. Actually, that's what I should have done first, is specify the conditions, and I can choose my object account where the ID equals dollar record dot account ID. And the field is going to be our checkbox. There it is, update all. And we're going to set it to false. All right, let's try that approach and see how it works for us. Let's save as, and let's activate it, and let's try that again. I should have had that in my notes as to what was the right approach to do that. Sometimes some of these things are so new, and it's nice when you've got other experts learning along with you, so you can see that this is new enough. I'm still kind of trying to figure it out as well. So let's try that again. Let's uncheck it, and then that basically we're resetting things. And then let's jump back in to edit mode. We'll check it. Let's see what else we can go with. Let's go with Washington Street. These people move a lot, so we're going to update that one. Let's see if it goes away. Cross our fingers. It did. Okay, so the update worked. Let's check our contact records, and they updated as well. Awesome. Thanks for that, Christine. That was very, very good. I missed that. Any other questions that you have? We've got about 6 minutes here left, so it can be related to these flows. It could be related to whatever other topic or questions that you have been waiting to ask. So feel free to unmute and ask away. Yeah, very good. You're welcome. You're welcome, Kristen. Any questions? So are you ready to switch away from Process Builder and over to Flow? Give it a try. Yep, love, yep. I think what you're going to find, and this has been true for me, I was not an early adopter of Flow. I honestly did not. I just wasn't. I didn't like its concept. I thought it was a lot of overhead. And granted, I could write code, so I would probably have defaulted to writing code instead. And I've learned to really, really appreciate Flow because it does have an extreme amount of power, and the ability for everyday admins to be able to now leverage it. It really makes a lot of sense to start moving that way. And so I strongly will encourage people and encourage you guys to, next time you have to make changes to Process Builder, consider doing it as a record trigger flow instead. I would be careful about the concept of having both. So you really do want to, with your automations, your declarative automations, kind of centralize them into a single option. So when you're thinking of automation tools that you have on your tool belt, you've got your old workflow rules, you've got Process Builder, and you have Flow. You do not want to use all three of them. You want to, at least on any given object. So if you're dealing like we were here with the account, you want to have just one of those automation tools in play. So as you are starting to think about migrating away from Process Builder and into Flow, you'll want to do that in a cutover type approach. So get all of your Process Builder items over into Flow before you release that. That way, you're not doing them in both solutions. Do we think Salesforce will release a migration tool to move our existing processes into Flow? I've wondered that same thing, Brittany. I don't know. I have not heard anything about that. I think it would be really difficult. I mean, technically they are Flow, but for them to be able to make that presentable to you in a fashion that is easy for you to digest and consume might be tricky, for the same reason that those error message emails that we get are really hard to interpret, because we don't have some of the naming convention stuff that we would do if we build it manually is just going to be some kind of a convoluted ID of sorts, and it would be really, really difficult for us to interpret. Now, might it be helpful? Maybe. But yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it or not. Good question. Any other questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
So could you use a flow to just like watch an object instead of being triggered by a record. Like, for example, watching a campaign. So once like a certain date has passed, it automatically updates the status of a campaign.
So there you're talking about a scheduled flow, I think. So yeah, so you could have a scheduled flow that executes, say, nightly, and that would work. That would be a way to do it. It's this one here.
Okay.
And your schedule's defined in that start element, just like it was in our record trigger flow.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's what I would likely go with. Sulab, it looks like you were asking a question to me privately, and I do not see the question. So, and it looks like maybe you've jumped off now too. But so I have some flows, but now with the idea of using flow versus process builder, I'm wondering if you recommend setting up a flow on each object with a before or after, and then have your different subflows. So that's a really good question, and the answer, if I'm interpreting what you're asking, let's go back into our flow. Let's say in here I've got multiple things, or let's just take these two items. Let's say I wanted those two items to be able to run within this, from this flow, and maybe I've got other flows that could leverage that same functionality. I could put these into a its own flow, and then call it from within this flow, and other flows could call it as well. That's just good flow design. So yes, Kristen, to your question there, if you want to have pieces of flow be reusable across other flows, absolutely set it up as its own flow, and you can call it from within here. I'm confused when I should use assignment versus update. Yeah, I probably made that a little bit more confusing as well, given I got it wrong the first time around. So an assignment, you can use assignments and afters, but let's kind of go up a little bit of a layer here. An assignment is just defining an action that you want to do. The update record is the actual call to update the record. So in this case here of our contact addresses, I could have done an assignment here that says update addresses, and I'd have to do a new resource, and so this gets a little bit more confusing, but I could do a new resource called a variable, and I'm going to just call it contacts.
Terry, I think you could probably just assign it to your record variable rather than.
I tried that and it did not work.
Well, but you only did the assignment. You didn't do the assignment and then.
Then my update. Got it. Okay, got it. That makes sense. So we could have left our assignment in and then done the update record calling that assignment.
Yes.
But yeah. Okay. Yeah, and that's basically what I was going to do here as well is oh, wait. No, here's what you're saying. You're saying, I think, that I can I do that?
I think so.
How do I identify that this is the contact though, without creating a contact S object or variable?
That's fair.
Yeah,
I was remembering that we were doing this from a specific record, so that was why I was thinking.
It would, yeah. It would. Oh, well, it would have worked for the checkbox one. I think you're right.
Yes.
Yeah, because there I could have set my checkbox equals false.
Yeah.
And then down here with my update record, I could edit this one. And then well, let's see, would it just be simply $record then here?
I think so.
I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Yeah, so $record. Now I would have to give the ID in here too, though, don't I? No, because it's already assigned. No, I don't need that.
The magic of the record trigger flow.
Yeah, you're right. It's already there. Okay, so Brittany, I probably confused you even more there, but let me try to walk you through it one more time. So the assignment here is just setting the values that we want to use. So the variables, in essence, that we're trying to use. So this is setting our update address checkbox to false. And then our update element down here is simply telling it to update that record. So it's almost like the assignment we're setting everything up in memory. And then the actual call is saying, okay, go update those items in memory and write them back to our table. Yeah, kind of like a save button. Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. Yep. So assignment is maybe using that save analogy. It's almost like the assignment is when you're editing the page, you're making changes in memory, and then the update is when you're saving it. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Awesome. That was a very good question, and that's one that I can easily get people confused. Good stuff. All right, well, I kept you 5 minutes longer than intended, so I appreciate you hanging in there. If you have other questions, feel free to post them out in our community, and Clarissa, I'm sure, will be more than happy to jump in and answer those questions for you because she's super, super smart. But yeah, we will definitely answer your flow questions, get them out there in the community, and we will do our best to try to help you make this transition. So thanks again for joining. I hope that you found it helpful. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Great job.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.